You are crouched behind the overturned sedan, the acrid stench of burnt rubber and gasoline clawing at your throat when the silence hits. Not the kind that's peaceful, but the kind that's waiting, like the world holding its breath. The crowd that had been screaming moments ago is gone, replaced by the faint shuffle of feet on asphalt and the low, guttural rasp that makes your skin crawl. You clutch the crowbar in your hand, its weight both comforting and useless, and scan the wreckage for her. Ellie, your sister, who was right beside you before the chaos erupted. Your phone buzzes in your pocket, the battery icon flashing red, but you can't risk checking it, not with the shadows shifting in the distance. The parking garage exit is only 50 feet away, but every step feels like a trap waiting to spring.
Script, the one rule every survivor forgets, day one. Mara's ambulance is flipped on its side, wheels still spinning. The back doors are bent open like a tin can. Inside, IV bags sway from the ceiling, dripping saline onto scattered morphine vials. One shattered vial glints near her boot. That's problem number one. Looters will track morphine residue for miles, but here's the bigger issue. Her partner Joel is gone. Not just gone, vanished mid-transport, straps torn loose, his radio abandoned in a pool of someone else's blood. And that blood isn't fresh, which means whatever took him wasn't in a hurry. Most people assume the infected are mindless. That's the movies talking, reality's worse. The ones that don't starve in the first week. They learn, they watch. They remember where the ambulances park. Mara's sidearm has one round left. Standard issue for EMTs, enough to scare off a meth head, useless against a horde. She knows the math. Urban survival odds drop 60% if you can't secure a firearm in the first 24 hours. But here's what nobody mentions: guns are loud. Fire that last round and every infected in a 6-block radius now knows your exact location. Her respirator's filter is at 70%. That sounds manageable until you realize downtown's burning. Chemical smoke plus viral load means every breath is a gamble. Take it off, risk infection. Leave it on, risk passing out from CO2 buildup. Most survivors don't realize this trade-off until they're already lightheaded. The ambulance radio crackles with overlapping distress calls. That's another problem. Emergency channels are public. Every cop, criminal, and desperate civilian with a scanner is hearing the same thing. Mercy General's rooftop helipad is evacuating medical personnel. Priority status. No family. No exceptions. Mara's badge might get her through the triage line. But the hospital's 12 blocks northeast, through a gridlock of abandoned cars, each one a potential ambush point. Games like The Last of Us make stealth seem easy. Reality? Asphalt reflects sound. Glass shards stick to your shoes. Every step is a broadcast, and Joel's still out there. That's the real trap. The moment you start looking for someone, you're dead. Search patterns make you predictable. Voices carry. Even if he's alive, and that's a big if, the math says don't. But math doesn't account for the syringe in her pocket. Joel's insulin, type 1 diabetic. Without it, he's got 48 hours max. The sun's coming up, that's bad. Daylight means visibility. It also means the infected retreat to shadows, the doorways, the sewers, the back seats of those gridlocked cars. You won't see them until they're already moving. Mara checks her watch. 6:51 a.m. The city's power grid usually fails between 7:30 and 8:00 a.m. when the backup generators at the substation overheat. After that, no traffic lights, no water pumps, no elevator shafts to bottleneck the infected, just silence. And in silence they hunt. She's out of time. One morphine vial left, one bullet, 12 blocks. And somewhere in the wreckage, Joel's insulin is ticking down. Next problem. The hospital's triage protocol includes mandatory blood tests. And Mara's pretty sure she's been bleeding since the crash. Narration asterisk. You ever notice how zombie movies always skip the part where survivors actually run out of bullets? Because that's where Mara's at right now. One round left in her sidearm, standing in the wreck of an ambulance on Meridian Street, realizing she's officially screwed. The city's gone quiet, but not the good kind of quiet. It's the kind where you asterisk no asterisk things are moving just out of sight. And the worst part, the infected here aren't slow. They're fast, twitchy, like their nerves are still firing even after everything else has shut down. Movies get this wrong all the time. Zombies don't shamble when their muscles haven't actually decayed yet. Mara's got a respirator, but the filter's at 70%, which means she's got maybe a day before she's breathing in whatever turned half the city into monsters. And that's if asterisk she doesn't sprint too hard and fog up the mask. Now, here's where it gets worse. She picks up a military broadcast on a scavenged radio Harker station, some supposed safe zone on the edge of the city. Sounds great, right? Except the military's been dark for asterisk days asterisk, and suddenly they're broadcasting coordinates. That's either a miracle or a trap. And in outbreaks, miracles don't happen. She moves toward the Callaway district because it's the only route that isn't fully choked with wrecks. But this is where the real problem starts. The infected here aren't just wandering, they're asterisk hunting, and they're learning. You can see it in the way they pause near open doors, how they don't just rush at every sound. That's the thing nobody talks about. These things might be rotting, but their brains are gone asterisk. Not yet. Mara's got morphine vials in her pocket, but they're scattered, half-crushed. That's another movie myth. Painkillers don't magically fix a broken leg. They just make you care less while you bleed out. Then she finds the blood trail. It's Joel's, has to be. He was wearing those same boots when he vanished. And the pattern's all wrong, drips, then drag marks like someone trying to walk off a bite. That's the worst part. You don't turn immediately. You get asterisk time to realize asterisk what's happening. And now Mara's got a choice. Follow the trail and find out for sure, or head toward Harker Station and pretend she doesn't already know the answer. But here's the thing about outbreaks. Hope gets people killed faster than the infected do. Asterisk Day 1, around 7:45 a.m. Denny knew this city like the back of his hand, which is the only reason Mara hadn't ditched him yet. He was a walking map of Callaway's back alleys, sewer access points, and which stores still had generators. But here's the issue. Denny was also a mess. He was twitchy from withdrawal and kept talking to his dead sister. Useful? Absolutely. Reliable? Not even close. They were holed up in the back of a Pictover pharmacy because Denny swore there was an emergency stash of oxy. Mara didn't care about the drugs. She needed antibiotics and, more importantly, a working radio. The last broadcast from the emergency channel had been looping the same message for hours. Evacuation convoys departing Harker Station at 1800 hours. Final departure. That gave them just under 12 hours to cross a city that was actively falling apart. Mara's handheld radio was their only lifeline to updates, but the battery was dying. And here's where it gets worse. The pharmacy's back room had exactly 0 AA batteries left, just empty blister packs and a spilled bottle of insulin. Denny was elbow-deep in a broken cabinet muttering about the good stuff, while Mara tried to jimmy open the employee lockers. That's when the radio static cut out completely. No more emergency broadcast. No more countdown to Harker Station. Just dead air. Movies always show survivors magically finding fresh batteries or solar chargers, but in real life, electronics die fast in an outbreak. Nobody talks about how quickly modern gear becomes useless. Your phone, bricked after a day without signal, desperately searching for towers. Your flashlight, chews through batteries if you're dumb enough to use it constantly. And radios, without updates, you're navigating blind through a city where the safe route changes by the hour. Mara still had the map Denny scribbled on a napkin, but maps don't tell you when a street's been blockaded by overturned buses or when a sewer line's flooded with infected. That's the thing about urban survival. Your intel expires faster than the food in your backpack. Denny suddenly froze, his whole body locking up. Mara thought he'd finally snapped, but then she heard it too, scratching at the pharmacy's front grate. Not the frantic clawing of infected, this was deliberate. Someone was trying to get in quietly, and that creates another issue. Living people are way more unpredictable than the dead. Infected follow noise and movement. Humans, They follow desperation. And right now, Mara and Denny were broadcasting it with every rattling shelf and whispered argument. Mara had one bullet left in her sidearm. Denny had a crowbar and a head full of bad ideas. Outside, the scratching stopped. That wasn't a good sign. The next horrifying implication. Whatever was out there had just realized stealth wasn't working. And now it didn't have to be quiet anymore. Here's the problem with service tunnels. They're designed to keep people out, not infected. Mara and Denny crouch behind an overturned delivery truck watching the steel door across the street. The keypad glows green and there's no visible damage. But that's actually worse than it looks. Why? Because if the tunnel hasn't been breached, it means nobody else made it this far. No military, no cops, no panicked civilians, just them. And the thing about secure doors is they don't open without codes or force. Denny's lockpick set vanished with Joel's backpack and Mara's down to 1/9 round. Kicking it won't work. Movies always show heroes finding keys conveniently hanging nearby. Real infrastructure doesn't do that. The access panel is military grade, same model as the one at the water treatment plant in The Last of Us *. But this isn't a game. No conveniently highlighted clues. Then the radio static cuts out. A voice. Female. Sergeant Reyes, according to the call sign. She's broadcasting from the rooftop across the street. She's got a clear shot on the infected trailing them. But here's the catch. She won't fire unless they answer 3 questions. Where they're coming from, what they're carrying, and if they've seen the wide-eyed ones. Mara's hand twitches toward her empty holster. Nobody talks about withdrawal during the apocalypse, but morphine leaves gaps in your focus. Denny's worse. He's counting Rey's visible weapons instead of the shadows shifting in the pharmacy window behind them. Reyes drops a rope ladder. The safe move would be to climb, but safe moves get you killed. The ladder's too short. You'd have to jump the last 4 feet, which means landing hard. Noise travels in dead streets. And Reyes isn't lowering it all the way. She's testing them. That's when Denny notices her boots. Military issue, but the laces are civilian. Stolen or scavenged, either way, Reyes isn't with whatever's left of the chain of command. She's operating on her own. The radio crackles again. Reyes mentions a quarantine breach at the docks. Casual, like it's common knowledge. But the docks were sealed before the outbreak hit downtown. If something got out from there, it wasn't human. Mara asks about the wide-eyed ones. Reyes goes quiet for 6 seconds, exactly 6. Then she says, "You'd know if you'd seen one." And that's the real problem with allies in a crisis. They don't lie, they just don't say everything. Reyes knows more than she's sharing. The docks, the white eyes, the way she keeps glancing at the service tunnel door like she's waiting for something to come out. The ladder sways. Time's up. Choose. Climb to a sniper's perch with an armed stranger, or try the tunnel with no tools, no ammo, and whatever made the military seal it in the first place. But here's the thing about choices in survival scenarios. They're usually illusions. Because right on cue, the pharmacy window shatters. And the infected don't sound like humans anymore. So you finally made it to Harker Station. After days of crawling through tunnels, dodging infected, and watching your group shrink one by one, this place should be your salvation. A working transit hub means trains. Trains mean escape. But here's the problem. Harker isn't abandoned. It's overcrowded. Not with infected, but with survivors. Hundreds of them crammed into every inch of the concourse, all desperate for the same thing you are. And that's worse than an empty station, because desperation makes people do stupid things. Stupid gets you killed. Movies love showing empty safe zones, but in reality, the first place with power and supplies becomes a magnet. And magnets attract chaos. Mara notices something off with Garrett. He's flinching at loud noises, sweating through his shirt in a 60-degree tunnel. Then she sees it, the blood seeping through his sleeve. He's been bitten, and he's hiding it. This is where most zombie stories get it wrong. The danger isn't just the bite turning him, it's the timing. Garrett's got maybe an hour before symptoms hit, but right now he's still coherent, still terrified. And that's the worst possible combo because a scared person with nothing left to lose. They'll do anything to survive, even lie, even run, even scream. And screaming is what gets you killed. Harker's main concourse is a nightmare of noise, shouting, crying, the occasional gunshot. But the infected aren't here yet because the station's steel shutters are still holding, for now. The real threat isn't outside. It's the guy next to you who knows he's dead and starts bargaining. Garrett waits until the group's arguing over train schedules to bolt. He's not trying to escape. He's trying to get on a train before anyone notices the bite. Because if he boards, he buys himself a few more hours. And if he turns mid-transit, congratulations, you've just turned an evacuation train into a mobile outbreak. Mara tackles him. Too late. The struggle draws attention. Someone yells, bite. And suddenly 200 panicked survivors are stampeding. The noise is deafening. The infected outside, they hear it. Here's the thing about zombie outbreaks that nobody talks about. Safe zones don't fall because of hordes breaking in. They fall because someone inside does something stupid. The first shutter collapses under the weight of infected. Then the second. By the time the station's emergency protocols kick in, it's over. The concourse becomes a kill box. Garrett's dead within minutes, not from the bite, but from a terrified cop putting 3 rounds in his chest. The permanent loss isn't just him, it's the asterisk location asterisk. Harker Station is now a write-off. Every survivor still inside is trapped. And the last working transit hub in Callaway District? Gone. But this creates another issue. The group's down to 4 people. No ammo, no exit plan, and the only thing louder than the infected pouring into the station, the sound of a train pulling away without them. Next stop, quarantine tunnels, and trust me, you don't want to see what's down there. You ever notice how in every zombie movie there's always some secret lab where the outbreak started? Well, turns out Harker Station asterisk was that lab, but not in the way you'd think. Ray's just pulled up files on the operations terminal, and the truth is way worse than some accidental leak. This wasn't a bioweapon. It wasn't even meant to be contagious. Harker Station was running clinical trials for a asterisk miracle drug asterisk, something designed to reanimate dead tissue for organ harvesting. Sounds crazy, right? But think about it. If you could bring a donor heart back online for just 72 hours, hospitals wouldn't need cold storage, no waiting lists, no expiry dates, and that's where things started to go wrong. The trials worked asterisk too well. The reanimated tissue didn't stop. It kept spreading, converting healthy cells into more of itself. The lab assumed they could contain it, standard quarantine protocols, right? But here's the issue. The compound bonded to asterisk any decaying organic matter, not just human, rats, birds, even insects. By the time they realized it was airborne, the ventilation system had already pumped it through half the station. Now Mara's standing there with 1 live round left, staring at the data and realizing 2 things. First, every quarantine order the survivors got was a lie. The station wasn't locking down to protect people, it was locking down to hide the outbreak until corporate could spin it. Second, and this gets worse, the cure they've been promising, it doesn't exist. The original drug was supposed to have an off switch, a kill code to stop the reanimation. But the mutated strain doesn't respond to it. That morphine in Mara's pocket, useless. The antibiotics, worthless. And here's the real nightmare. This isn't just a station outbreak. If the compound bonded to birds, then it's already in the ecosystem. Even if you nuked Harker Station off the map, the strain could still be cycling through animals miles away. That's why the military cordon outside isn't a rescue. It's a burn perimeter. They're not waiting for survivors. They're waiting to see if the containment holds. Mara's got about 30 seconds before the next system purge cycles the vents, which means she has to decide. Tell the survivors and risk a panic that gets everyone killed, or stay quiet and let them die hoping for a cure that'll never come. And that's the real horror here, not the zombies, not the virus. The fact that the only thing left to control is how people die. But here's the kicker, Ray's just found something else in the logs. The station's self-destruct isn't for emergencies. It's protocol. Corporate scheduled it weeks ago. So what's Mara going to do? The clock is ticking and the stakes couldn't be higher. Day 1, 9:55 a.m. Mara's hands were trembling as she handed Denny the radio. Dead. No static, no signal, nothing. That's when she dropped the bomb. Harker Station wasn't a safe zone. It was a trap. The government had sealed it off hours ago, and the real extraction point was 2 miles north. 60 people were still in the concourse, completely unaware of the danger. The clock was ticking, and the maintenance level was already compromised. That's the first problem. Moving 60 panicked, untrained civilians through a zombie-infested underground station isn't just hard, it's borderline impossible. You've got kids, elderly, injured, and everyone's carrying whatever junk they think will save them. That's not a survival group, it's a buffet. And here's the kicker. The concourse doors are failing. Those doors are the only thing keeping the infected out, and they're not built to hold forever. Mara knows this because she's seen the maintenance logs. The hydraulics are shot, the metal's warping, and every thud against the door is another minute closer to collapse. Movies always make it seem like you can just barricade a door and call it a day, but in reality doors fail. Fast. Once they're breached, you've got seconds to react, not minutes. But here's the real issue. Mara's low on ammo. She's got 1 live round left in her sidearm. 1. That's not enough to clear a hallway, let alone fight off a horde. And Denny, he's got nothing but a wrench. So their plan hinges on stealth, speed, and luck. But stealth doesn't work when you're leading 60 people through narrow, echoing stairwells. Someone's going to scream, someone's going to trip, and then it's over. That's the trade-off. Move fast and risk noise, or move slow and risk the doors failing. Neither option is good. And it gets worse. Mara's running on fumes. She's exhausted, her respirator's filter is almost spent, and she's starting to feel the withdrawal from her last dose of morphine. She's not thinking straight, and Denny's not much better. They're making decisions based on panic, not logic. That's how people die in these situations. You don't need zombies to kill you. Exhaustion and bad choices will do it first. Then there's the morphine. Mara's got a few scattered vials left, but they're not for her. They're for Joel, her partner. The one who went missing hours ago. She's been holding onto them, hoping he's still alive, hoping she can save him. But here's the thing. In a zombie outbreak, hope gets people killed. You can't afford to hold on to what-ifs when every second counts. And that's the hardest part of survival, not the fighting, not the running, but the letting go. That's when the concourse doors give out. The metal groans, the hydraulics fail, and the infected pour in. Mara and Denny are still in the stairwell when they hear the screams. They've got a choice, go back and try to save the group or keep moving and save themselves. It's an impossible decision, but Mara's already made it. She's heading for the extraction point. Denny hesitates, but he follows. That's when they see him. Joel, he's in the crowd, stumbling toward them, but he's not fully turned. His eyes are glazed, his movements are jerky, but he's still there, still human. Mara freezes. This is the moment she's been dreading. She's got 1 bullet left. 1. She could use it to save him, to end his suffering, or she could save it for herself. But here's the problem. If she shoots him, the noise will draw every infected in the area. If she doesn't, he'll turn completely and he'll come after her. Either way, she's screwed. That's the thing about survival horror. It's not about the zombies. It's about the choices. The impossible, no-win decisions that haunt you long after the outbreak is over. Mara's about to make hers. And it doesn't matter what she chooses. Someone's going to die. Probably everyone. Day marker. Day 1, approximately 10:15 a.m. The extraction convoy pulls up to Harker Station at dawn, and it's not what anyone expected. Instead of the armored column they were promised, there are just 2 repurposed school buses and a pickup truck with a mounted gun. That's it. 60 civilians, no armor, and a driver who looks like he hasn't slept in days. This is the rescue. Here's the problem. School buses are death traps in an outbreak. They can't handle rough terrain, the windows are thin, and if one breaks down, you lose half your people at once. Movies love bus escapes because they look dramatic, but in reality, a school bus is just a metal coffin on bad suspension. And that mounted gun, it's got maybe 200 rounds. That's 2 minutes of suppression fire. Then it's useless. Mara is standing there with one bullet left in her sidearm, staring at Joel, who now has that grayish tint around his eyes. He's fighting it, but they both know how this ends. The real horror isn't the bite, it's the math. Do you waste your last round on mercy or save it for when the buses inevitably get swarmed? Most people freeze at this moment. Mara doesn't, she makes the call. But here's the issue. Reyes was right about Harker Station being compromised, just not in the way anyone expected. The military didn't lose control of the facility. They gave it up. The convoy team whispers about containment protocols and burns their uniforms before rolling out. That's not standard procedure. That's a scorched earth retreat. And now 60 civilians are loading onto unmarked vehicles with soldiers who won't even show their insignia. That sounds manageable until you realize the buses aren't heading to a safe zone. They're going north, toward the radio-dead zones, toward where the last military broadcasts cut off mid-sentence. Nobody talks about what happens when the evacuation site is worse than the place you're leaving. The morphine vials Mara scavenged. Useless now, the antibiotics, probably placebo, the real kicker. That broken radio in her pack was the only civilian unit still scanning military frequencies. She could have heard the truth hours ago if the battery hadn't died. As the buses pull out, Reyes slips her a crumpled map. There's a route marked in red, a detour that avoids the official checkpoint. The handwriting isn't his, it's Joel's. And that's when Mara understands the real outbreak wasn't the virus, it was the lies. The buses roll into sunlight packed with people who still think they're being saved. But here's the thing about hope in an apocalypse. It doesn't disappear all at once. It leaks out slowly, through the cracks in promises, through the silence of radios, through the way soldiers won't meet your eyes. By the time you realize you're not getting a happy ending, it's already too late to turn back. Next stop, nowhere good.